He doesn't have a seat in the legislature. His party doesn't have official party status at Queen's Park. But he's among the hardest working, best liked politicians in the province, at the head of a party with candidates in every riding for 3 straight decades now, but nary an MPP to show for it. Will his fourth try with the fourth place party be the breakthrough election? Let's find out. From Mike Schreiner, leader of the Green Party of Ontario, who's running for election in the riding of Guelph. Welcome back to TVO.
Thanks, Steve. It's a pleasure to be here.
I asked the leaders who come and sit in that chair, all of them the same question to start out with. What is this election campaign all about?
This election campaign is about building a livable, prosperous future for our children. I'm deeply concerned that we're not embracing and leaping forward to embrace the 21st century economy, the low-carbon economy. That's where the jobs for our kids are going to be. We should be leading that and creating those jobs today. And we have to leave a livable planet for them by having an aggressive plan to tackle climate change, but also protect the people and places we love by using the prosperity we generate to invest in good public services. That's what the Green Party is fighting for, and I think the 3 establishment parties are letting us down.
You call them the 3 establishment parties, but you have been complimentary in the past from time to time with the Liberal government, for example, that closed all the coal-fired generating stations, which I'm sure you would agree was an environmentally sensible thing to do. Can you put them all in the same basket the way you have?
Well, I think part of it is, Steve, it's just doing politics differently. And elected Greens across Canada now and around the world actually are showing people you can do politics differently. And it's almost precisely what you just suggested. I'm able to collaborate and work with other parties. I feel like the 3 establishment parties, politics as usual is let's bash each other, tear each other down. I'm more interested in building Ontario up. And if that means working with other parties, we will do that.
You have been honest enough to say that you don't expect to form the next government of Ontario. I know you are fighting to win a seat in Guelph. Given the low expectations of the party, why do it at all?
You know what? Somebody has to fight for a livable future and a livable legacy for our children. I got into politics because I felt the 3 establishment parties were letting us down on 3 big issues. 1 is the climate crisis. 2 is rising levels of income inequality, and 3 is just the toxic way in which politics is done in Ontario. I want to change all 3. Elected Greens across Canada are doing that. That's the people-powered change I will bring to Queen's Park, and that's what keeps me going, even when it's not so easy sometimes.
Make the case, though, for why, out of a parliament of 124 members, even 1 Green would make a difference.
Well, I've already made a difference, Steve. As for example, I led the charge to get big money out of politics in 2016. I worked with the Premier in helping write the legislation to ban corporate and union donations to political parties, lower donation limits. I then worked with the 2 opposition leaders to get that done. That's what doing politics differently is all about. I look at David Kuhn, who was just here in Ontario recently, the first Green MLA elected in New Brunswick. His first piece of legislation he had passed with ethics legislation around public disclosure of MPP or MLAs, in their case, expenses, as well as a code of conduct. So Greens elected, even 1 Green can make a difference. So if I can do that before being an MPP, imagine what I can do for Ontario, imagine what I can do for my home riding of Guelph when I am elected as an MPP.
And of course, Andrew Weaver won 3 seats in British Columbia, ended up holding the balance of power in a minority parliament, brought down the Liberal government, had the NDP government installed. Have you talked, I presume you have talked to Andrew Weaver many times during the course of the past year. What have you learned from his experience in BC that you think is applicable here?
Well, what I've learned from both BC and PEI in particular, where the Greens have 2 seats and are now polling number 2 and even looking at forming official opposition after the next election, is 1, how important it is to elect that first member. Because then you can show people, 1, it's possible, and 2, that you can do politics differently. You're not just saying you're going to do it differently, you actually do it differently. When people see elected Greens in action, they then vote for more elected Greens because they like what they see. So that's why PEI has doubled their caucus. That's why the BC Greens have tripled their caucus. And I think now Andrew Weaver is showing that you can hold what he calls the balance of responsibility in a minority government to get things done and actually keep, in this case, the BC NDP, hold them to their principles. Whenever they seem to stray from their principles, Andrew kind of wheels them back and says, hey, this is what we promised the people of British Columbia. This is what we have to deliver on if we have a minority government in Ontario. And we're looking like it could be a minority government given the poll number, which I know can change a lot in the next 2 weeks. But that's the role I can play holding the balance of power in a minority government as well.
Here is what your party, Mr. Schreiner, has on offer. You of course, have stood for many different things over the years, but you've honed it down to a 9-point platform for this 2018 election. We'll just go through them right now. Number one, create jobs in the clean innovation economy. Number two, make our homes and businesses more energy efficient. Number three, lower payroll taxes on small, local businesses and nonprofits. Number four, require new developments to have a minimum of 20% affordable homes. Number five, make mental health services part of OHIP+. Number six, implement a basic income guarantee for all Ontarians. You know, there's a pilot program going on in 3 places now. You want it province-wide. Number seven, protect air, water, and farmland. Number eight, a long-term 100% renewable energy plan. And number nine, charges and taxes to pay for public transit infrastructure. As a philosophy, as a kind of a general overarching principle, why these 9?
Because I think it's absolutely critical that we leap into the 21st century and create the clean economy jobs. What I'm deeply worried about, especially with the two parties leading in the polls right now, is Doug Ford doesn't even know the clean economy exists, even though it's a $6 trillion opportunity. If we even capture 1% of that, that would be a bigger contributor to our GDP than the auto sector. Andrea Horwath barely notices it exists, and on top of that, she wants to increase taxes on small businesses, which she doesn't understand what a critical role local businesses play in building resilient, diversified local economies in a 21st century economy.
I'm just going to jump in here. Are you sure about that? Because my recollection of her platform is, yes, an increase in the corporate income tax for bigger corporations, but she was going to leave small business alone.
No. If you look at their EHT exemption, they're lowering that down to 1.5 million. That's a company with about 15 employees. I don't think that's a big business, Steve.
We're talking different things. So you're talking the employer health tax.
That's right. I was
talking corporate income tax. Okay.
So we actually agree with the NDP that the biggest corporations, there is room for them to pay a bit more. What I'm worried about with the NDP platform is they want to raise payroll taxes on small businesses. And with their changes to the business education tax structure, that would negatively affect a number of small businesses as well. And so what we need to realize is local businesses play a critical role in having a resilient, diversified local economy, creating good local jobs. And then we also need to embrace the clean tech and clean innovation economy. Already 274,000 Canadians work in clean energy. That's more people than work in the oil sands. That's where the jobs are. We want Ontario to be the global leader in the clean economy.
That all sounds wonderful. I now want to hone in on number 9, which is the most, probably the most controversial part of your 9-point plan. And that is you want to put tolls on the 400 series highways that lead into the city of Toronto and use that money to pay for infrastructure, public transit improvements, and so on. Why would you think that politically can fly?
You know what, Steve? For decades now, politicians from the 3 establishment parties have talked about solving gridlock and getting people in our economy moving again, and they haven't really delivered on it because they haven't had an honest conversation with people about how to pay for it. And I think leadership for me is about courage. The courage to look people in the eye and say, you know what? If we're going to get our economy moving again, we have to build transit. If we're going to get goods moving and people moving, we have to build transit. And we have to be honest about how to pay for it. Every expert recommendation, the Board of Trade, the Golden Report, Metrolinx report, have all said road pricing is an essential component of, one, having a mechanism to allocate road space efficiently and effectively, but also to raise the money we need to invest in transit.
And it's a political dead end, which is why the Premier wouldn't do it.
Well, you know what? John Tory had the courage, after looking at the books and saying, you know what? This is the only way we're going to find the revenue we need to build the transit we need. Here's the bottom line is, the lack of transit, gridlock, is costing our economy $11.5 billion a year in lost productivity. It's costing us an additional $650 million a year in higher prices for goods because of delay in transporting those goods through the GTA. That has real cost to people, real cost to our economy, real cost to your quality of life in terms of your ability to have time with friends and family and not be stuck in a car for 80 minutes, which is the average commute in the GTA. Somebody has to do something about it. The Green Party has the courage to say, you know what, we will tackle this problem and we will be honest with you about how to pay for it.
You've told a story in the past, I think it was at your kickoff press conference actually, where you unveiled the 9-point plan. You're door knocking in Guelph.
Yes.
You come upon some guy who says, don't waste your time here, I'm not voting for you.
That's right.
What happened next?
Yeah, well, I told him our plan because all-day two-way GO service, Guelph, Kitchener, and Toronto is a top priority for me, as well as intercity bus service, direct bus lines between Guelph and KW and Guelph, Hamilton. And I told him how we would pay for it, and he said, "Don't, I would never vote for you because you're going to charge me to go to the Leafs game." And I said, "I respect that, sir, but I hope you respect me for being honest with you." So I knocked on about 5 or 6 more doors, and I was getting ready to leave the little cul-de-sac he was living on, and he said to me, "Hey, green guy, come back here."
Green guy, he called?
Green guy, he called me, and I was like, oh man, how much abuse could a guy take in one day? And I walked back, and he said, "You know what? I want a sign for my yard, and I'm voting for you." And I said, "Geez, what made you change your mind on road pricing?" He goes, "Oh, I still don't like road pricing." But he goes, "I respect you for being honest with me. And if we don't vote for honest politicians, we're not going to have honest government. And I'm voting for you because you had the courage to be honest with me. Tell me something you knew I didn't want to hear and stick by it."
If with that success rate, you need to knock on 4 million doors and you'll be the premier.
Which is why I'm knocking on so many doors right now.
Let's talk about incentivizing developers to build affordable housing.
Yes.
You've got a big number in here, Mr. Schreiner. You want to see all new developments have at least 20% be, I guess the jargon is affordable homes or socially assisted homes or
below market.
Below market, right. Why would developers not say to you, "Mike, give me a break? I mean, we're trying to build homes for the influx of people who are coming here, and you're putting all kinds of regulations and strictures on us that are just too much." What's the response?
These aren't regulations preventing building. This is about saying that everyone in Ontario should have a place they can afford to call home. We know the housing market in southwestern Ontario in particular is out of control. So many young families can't afford a home. Many seniors are being priced out of their home. So let's look at international best practices. About 450 cities in the United States, as well as a number of cities in Europe, have brought in rules that require a minimum 20% below market housing units, whether it's rental, subdivision, condo, townhouses, et cetera, to ramp up the supply of available affordable housing. And you can provide incentives to developers, such as speeding up the approvals process for them, which can help them save money.
You can't do that, though. City Hall can do that. That's out of your purview.
Well, no, the province actually can facilitate things through the Planning Act, and cities are creatures of the province. The other thing the province can help with is density bonuses as well. So we can work with.
What does that mean?
So that means maybe you allow a few more, maybe another story on the building, or maybe a slightly more dense townhome unit, et cetera. So that way the developers can help recover costs. But here's the bottom line, Steve, is government should be involved in building things and funding things like supportive housing and shelters and social housing, which we are advocating an increase in funding for. But that's not going to help all the young families or seniors who are trying to either buy into the housing market or stay into the housing market. Requiring a 20% affordable housing is an efficient, effective, affordable way to do it. It's best practices that other cities and countries around the world are doing, and we think it'll make a huge, huge benefit to people in terms of ramping up the availability of housing supply. And then we don't have to do, ideas like open the Greenbelt for development and things like this, which, Mr. Ford proposed and backtracked on. But those types of backroom deals with developers don't work. We need to be transparent, and that's what our policy is all about.
I do, since I have the leader of the Green Party here, I do want to talk more about the environment, as you will not be surprised. The current government has got a cap and trade plan in place, which it has with Quebec and California, and it brings, I think in the last budget, it showed something like $2 billion in revenues into the province of Ontario, which the current government says it spends on green energy projects and the like. You want to end cap and trade. You want to take, if I understand your position, 5 years to phase it out and then bring in a carbon tax. How come?
Because carbon fee and dividend, our proposal is just more effective. One of the challenges, and I first should say, Steve, that we support any form of carbon pricing, period. So some form of pricing greenhouse gas pollution is better than none. Let's put it that way. But here's the problem with the Liberal plan, and this is the problem that oftentimes happens with cap and trade plans. The 150 largest polluters in Ontario are exempted from the carbon price in the Liberal plan. And oftentimes, it's these kinds of backroom deals or manipulation of the trading markets that allow exemptions to happen, and it means the program is less effective. Our plan says, put a price on all greenhouse gas pollution in this province.
And everybody pays it.
Everybody pays it. Started at $50 and ramp it up to $150 because that's what economists tell us is the level we need to start shifting economic behavior.
What would the effect of it be?
So you'll see a dramatic decline in carbon pollution. And you'll see a big shift in our economy to the clean economy, which Ontario can be a global leader in. But with our dividend program, we, in a revenue neutral way, all that money would be returned back to the people of Ontario because people are going to need help in being able to afford to make the transition. So we want to provide that financial help to people so they can make the transition to a low carbon economy, so they can manage the increase in fossil fuel price increases, and so they have money to invest in things like retrofitting their home, buying an electric vehicle, buying a transit pass, maybe buying a bicycle, whatever it is they need to do to lower their carbon footprint. And so the more you save, the more money you keep in your pocket. So it's a big benefit to people.
Let's talk about how we have managed to keep the lights on here. Yes. And that is 60% of the province of Ontario relies on nuclear power to keep the lights on. You're not a big fan of nuclear power, we know that. The Pickering generating station, about an hour east of here, the generating stations there, are within the next several years coming to the end of their life, unless we put a lot of money in to bring them back to life and get an extended life out of them. You don't want to do that. What's your alternative?
Yeah, well, first of all, Steve, we have to recognize that we can't close our nuclear plants right away, because you're right, 60% of our electricity comes from them. But the Green Party is saying, don't waste any more new money on rebuilding outdated nuclear plants. No nuclear plant in Ontario's history has come in on budget or on time. We're the only party saying no, emphatically no, to the 180% price increase OPG has put forward for electricity from Darlington to finance the rebuilding of the Darlington nuclear station. Ontario simply cannot afford that kind of price increase when we have lower cost sources of power available to us, such as low cost water power from Quebec. On Pickering, the operating license for Pickering expires in August of this year, so just a few months away. I wouldn't buy milk past its best before date. I have no idea why the government wants to keep a nuclear plant operating past its best before date. The fourth oldest nuclear plant in North America, and the one that everyone agrees is the least reliable nuclear plant. We can save $1.1 billion a year right now if we close Pickering. The Green Party is saying do that. Take the $1.1 billion in savings, invest it in your home and your business to help you save money by saving energy, helping your business become more competitive because it's more energy efficient. That will be good for our economy, and it'll also be good for your pocketbook, and that's how we take the structural changes we need to make to address rising electricity prices, not these expensive Band-Aids that the Liberals, the NDP, and the Conservatives are proposing.
No, I hear you, but I think previous Ontario premiers, obviously this solution has been available to them, and they have, for whatever reason, felt uncomfortable about relying on importing power from the province of Quebec as much as your plan would require. Why are you not concerned about that?
Well, first of all, New York State, as an example, are closing their overpriced, outdated nuclear plants and replacing it with low-cost water power from Quebec. I mean, we can buy low-cost water power from Quebec for 1/3 of what it's going to cost for rebuilt nuclear power. So I want to put the people of Ontario first. The other three parties...
Which people, Mr. Schreiner?
The people paying the electricity bills.
There's 1,700 people who work at the Pickering nuclear facility who'll be out of work if you shut that thing down.
So those 1,700 people, we can convert them into 32,000 people hours to decommission Pickering. So that is a lot of employment, Steve. And then what that would do for Ontario is there are nuclear plants all over the world that are going to need to be decommissioned in the next decade. Why not have Ontario be the expert in how to do that, the global leader in how to do that? So then we can export that expertise, even creating more jobs for Ontarians and more prosperity for Ontarians. Our plan helps lower electricity prices, provides a long-term solution to rising electricity costs, and helps Ontario become a global leader in how to decommission nuclear plants, which is going to benefit our economy. I think it's a win-win for everyone, but somebody has to have the courage to stand up to, the very powerful nuclear lobby, which you see their ads everywhere, and I think, previous governments haven't had the courage to do that. The Greens do.
Let's talk about one item that is not actually part of your 9-point plan. It's outside that 9-point plan, but you've run on it in the past and you agree with it this time as well. You'd like to see a single, unified public education governance system here. I guess some people in short form say defunding the Roman Catholic school system. You know, the third rail of Ontario politics, the conventional wisdom says, is religion, education, politics, put them all together. You get killed if you touch that third rail. Why do you want to go there?
Courage, Steve. Courage and leadership. I think part of leadership is to have courage. And the reason that particular issue is not in our 9-point plan is we recognize this is something that's not going to happen in the next 4 years. It's going to be a long-term discussion. But that discussion needs to happen now. And do you know why it needs to happen now? Because I believe deeply in public education. And it pains me to see our schools underfunded. It pains me to see our teachers and our educational staff and our students not getting the supports they need. And so when I look at and I see two different school boards, public and Catholic, both spending education dollars, public education dollars to advertise, to compete with each other for students, that is money that should go into classrooms, supporting students, teachers, and staff. When I see duplication in administration and buildings and busing, I think I want that money to go to support students, teachers, and educational staff, especially providing students with special needs the supports they need, because we are not serving students with special needs and with mental health issues in schools with the kind of supports they need. And finally, I deeply believe in inclusive, caring communities. And I think our public school system plays an important role in bringing Ontarians together and in creating and building those inclusive communities. But I know that's a tough discussion and a tough conversation that needs to happen, and I want to do it in a respectful, collaborative way with all stakeholders at the table to figure out how we move forward in a way that benefits all Ontarians on this issue.
So over how many years do you think it would take to, if you like, unfund Catholic education and put everybody together in one system?
You know, I think probably a decade to have the conversation to happen and to have a plan that would make it happen. But we need to start it now, because one of the things that worries me is if we don't have that conversation now and have it in a respectful way, that, you know, for instance, the province is in a very difficult fiscal position right now in good economic times. What's going to happen when there's a recession and a government comes in and says, you know, we have to start cutting or we have to start doing drastic action, and then they do something like this in a disorganized way that really disrupts people's lives? I want this done in a way that's designed to benefit people and to make sure we take care of our students, teachers, and education staff.
Mr. Schreiner, we've got about a minute and a half left here, and I notice you brought a stack of papers with you.
I did.
Why have you brought those papers?
Well, I brought these with me, Steve, because over 24,000 or about 25,000 people in Ontario have signed a petition saying that Mike Schreiner and the Green Party should be included in the televised leaders debate on Sunday. And I think the media consortium, and I know you don't make this decision, Steve, I know you're just the host, so I'm not directing this to you personally, but I think it's a slap in the face of the people of Ontario. It's a slap in the face of democracy to leave the Green Party out of the televised leaders debate. Thousands of Ontarians agree with me. There are 4 parties in this province that receive hundreds of thousands of votes that qualify for public funding of political parties. The people of Ontario should be able to hold all 4 of those parties accountable.
I say for the record, I think you and your team visited this TV station probably a decade ago and said, we deserve to be a part of your political discussions. When you have the 3 major parties in, you should have 4. And we said yes.
That's right.
So, and the Greens have been included in all of our partisan discussions ever since. But the consortium, in its wisdom, has gone a different direction. But I'd actually like to see some of these emails at some
I can
point.
leave these with you, Steve.
Okay.
And I do appreciate that TVO has included the Green Party in your broadcasts.
And here you are again. That's Mike Schreiner. He's the leader of the Green Party of Ontario, running for personal election in the riding of Guelph. As I say to all the leaders, stay safe on the campaign trail, and thanks for taking the time to come into TVO tonight.
Thanks, Steve. It's my pleasure.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.